Two, two, two. What
Hello.
up?
What Justin forgot is that everybody heard that countdown again. How are you doing, Next Gen HQ community? How are we feeling today, Jay?
It is an incredible day. I'm absolutely fired up for this conversation. It is a very long time coming. NGS 2017, Brett hops on stage. In the audience are his absolute gem parents, sitting with your parents, sitting with my parents. So there's like a just great family affair going on. Speaking of family affair, I know we got some great, shout out Grandma Rose on the
She's
live
in.
stream. Grandma, what's going on? Who else we got here?
I just got word that Brett's parents are watching. So, Mr. and Mrs. Hagler, nice to meet you again.
Shout out
See
to
you. We
them.
appreciate you.
Shout out Next Gen Summer Intern, Summer 2020 team, who just joined this past week. They are going to be hopping in the comments. We're pumped. Brett has a college program that we have to hype down because we don't want our college program. There's too much interest. We need to lower the stakes a little bit. Next Gen Summer team, we're happy to have you here. Shout out to all the Next Gen families out here building, continuing to build, heads down every single day.
100%. Jay, I want to get us started with a quick warm-up before we welcome Brett. And we're going to get there very quickly, 30 seconds. Bear with us. Non-negotiables for you, Justin. I just now, about 30 minutes ago, I went for a run because I got to move. I got to get up in the morning and get some action going. And I went for a run. In the middle of it, got caught in a rainstorm. Flash flood.
My goodness.
And it was the most beautiful experience of all time. I loved it. I feel so ready and energized for this live. But Jay, before we ask Brett the same question, what's a non-negotiable for you?
I am loving this question. I think Brett has one that we share. Recently, a lot of people know about me. I've been on a mindfulness journey, trying to become a little bit more aware of my mind and my thoughts and my feelings. Shout out Andrew Feinstein on our team, FYM, if you know, you know, who's just doing an incredible job leading a mindfulness train. And I think that's going to dovetail with a lot of what we've been speaking about. Dill, I love that. Non-negotiable. That's really key.
Let's get Brett in here. Paige, please, can we welcome Brett to the stage so we can ask him what he's working on? Brett, where you at? And here he is.
Hey,
Brett, welcome to Next Gen HQ, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing my best. I'm doing all right. And I'm in Atlanta right now at one of News Story's offices that is empty, just me. And excited to be on with you guys.
Brett, we really appreciate it. We already have a lot of folks hopping into the private comments. Please keep it coming. We're going to get to a lot of your questions. I know everyone's excited to hear from Brett. So Brett, we met at 2017. We know you now. The news story is continuing to unfold. But we'd love to take it back a little bit to maybe around your time in college in your early 20s. It seems that the news story of now that everybody knows and the Brett of now, the CEO, maybe wasn't the same approach that you took. Can you walk us back, take us back? Where were you in your early 20s before News Story and how you started to figure out the world in your own eyes?
Yep. So I went to, I grew up in Florida. I went to Florida State. And in college, I was always ambitious, but it was just kind of all for the wrong things. So, instead of focusing it on, trying to build a great business that helps the world or doing what we do now, or I don't know, so many other positive things you can do with your time in college. I was kind of just your stereotypical, like, go after what I call the 3 Gs, which was girls, gold, and glory. As a fraternity guy, as leader of the fraternity. And that was kind of what I, used certain sales skills or certain things that I'm doing now was just kind of all for basically things that are meaningless. And it took kind of going through that area of my life to, well, yes, no doubt it was fun. And like, I don't condone like having fun. I still have I drink, I have fun. Like, I'm not saying don't do that, but my priorities were not where they needed to be. And so that's what I lived through as a college student, but I was always very interested and passionate about entrepreneurship. And so I started just becoming obsessed with reading, whether you call it business books or, biographies about certain entrepreneurs or, your kind of baseline self-help books. Like I would do that all the time. And I think that really started to help form just my imagination and what I deemed was possible as somebody that was young. And I just kept remembering, like, wow, throughout history, people that are young do so many big things, and not to listen to the kind of the what society will try to do, which will pull you down into thinking, you're young, you're inexperienced, you need to wait your turn, you need to like fall in line, play by the rules, all of that. I just, learned about a lot of people that didn't really do that. And I'm like, well, what was so different about them? And I think it ultimately came down to, like, obviously there needs to be talent involved, but like they just decided to, right? And I really believe that. Like, I really believe you can decide to do things differently, and then you can take action against them. And when you do that, you find yourself in rare company, because not many people do that. And so just by deciding to do that, you've differentiated yourself. And so that was kind of towards the end of college when I started getting very interested in entrepreneurship. Got involved, did a first startup out of college, which basically ended up failing. But that startup led me down on a trip to Haiti, where I discovered the problem that we're working on now at News Story. So it all kind of worked together of wanting to take that first risk. Even though it failed, it led to good things.
I love that, Brett. And what you said, that is so impactful for anybody listening. You have to actively decide. It's not going to happen to you. You can't be waiting for something, for the perfect sign, right? The skies to part, and there is your answer. You have to make a decision and go for it. So talk to us maybe on a personal, and then with News Story, Brett, what was that aha moment, if you will, where you saw an opportunity and you said, this is my chance, I'm going to take advantage of this?
Yeah. So I had a couple parts of my life where I had a college that I just decided that I was going to start doing things differently. And, I wasn't going to care anymore about the things I cared about in the past. And like, I'm just over like caring about what everybody else like cares about. And so, the first thing that actually happened to me that was totally different was I revived a childhood Christian faith, and that's what really caused a big 180 in like how I thought about things. But like, even looking back, like that was very different. Like my peer group, that wasn't like a popular, like cool thing really, right? So like that was a different choice. And then that led to just caring more about things that matter. And then I started a for-profit startup when I was 23 or 22, and really didn't really know what I'm doing, but I still wanted to try. And I kind of weighed the pros and cons of like, okay, if this doesn't work, then would it still be worth trying? And I ultimately said yes, and it ended up not working. And it led to everything that I'm doing today. It led to certain relationships that funded what I'm doing today. It led to experiences that created the vision for what's happening today. And it really just like started to separate. I really started to separate myself of like going into these different areas and choosing to do things differently. So that was kind of the backdrop to then News Story. And then News Story, so I took this trip to Haiti, and I had actually met Scott Harrison from Charity Water, who's now a friend, mentor, and advisor. His wife, Vic, is actually on our board of directors, former board of directors. And we were partnering with the first startup that I did. And I just loved like their take on charity. And I got very interested in kind of how they were doing things differently. And then after my trip to Haiti, I tried to find other nonprofits that were working on housing, which is what we focused on, and that were trying to do things in a more modern, innovative, cool, great brand, like the same kind of stuff that a really great for-profit startup would focus on, and I couldn't find it. And so that to me was like a reason why it made sense to actually start an organization as opposed to joining an existing one just for the mission, right? It was like, yes, there was a pull on my heart for the mission, undoubtedly, But that wasn't the only reason. The other reason was because I didn't see an organization that was doing it in the kind of way that would excite me. And so
totally makes sense.
All the time, like, especially coming from Y Combinator, is like, make something people want. And that's essentially what I did. I just said, hey, I'm 24. There's a lot of things I don't know, but this is what I would want in the kind of organization that I'd be excited about supporting, that I would want to work for. And then you just design it from there. And, you know, I say all the time, dream big, start small. And we started super small. And that was kind of the genesis of it.
Dream big, start small, I think is really resonating with a lot of people in the comments here. Shout out Remy, Julia, Sam, Sierra, who are thinking about, I am young, I do want to take next steps. Two things you bring up, very importantly, Brett, your faith journey and then the journey of your business model, being in charity. Both are two routes that, as you said yourself, are not something that everybody's doing. It's not super mainstream. It's maybe not super cool where you came from. Can you walk us through those early years of New Story as you continue to develop in your faith journey? How did you give yourself the strength, the self-talk? What resources did you surround yourself with? How did you have the nerve to keep going when you're embarking in your basically a new life of uncertainty, with everybody saying, "Hey, what is this guy doing over here?"
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say that I drew near to a few people that I really respected for all the right reasons. And I just kind of asked myself the question, like what ultimately, like at the end of the day, zoom out, I'm now 70, I'm looking back, like, yeah, what do I want to be proud of? Right. And like, how do I want to develop my character? And like, how do I want to help other people, et cetera? And I think when you have that longer term, when you zoom out and you can really think that way, then all of the short-term stuff, like, it doesn't matter. It's just like, who cares if by age 30 you have $1 million, 10 million, or $100,000 in your bank account, right? Like, I can tell you something, nobody in the world cares except yourself, and it's really not that big of a difference, right? And so I started to just like reimagine what I thought was cool. That was kind of it, right? Where before I thought it was, a certain amount of money I could make at a startup. I thought it was the kind of girl. I thought it was the kind of travel the world party I could be at. And then I just totally, reset what I thought was cool. And I was like, well, generosity is pretty cool. Using your skills and your leadership abilities to help other people around the world is pretty cool and fulfilling, right? Like having a bigger term perspective that, like, I'm on this earth for a pretty short period of time, and like what actually matters. And from there, then just like designing your life that way. And that's kind of how I did it. And I can tell you that, I'm still young, I'm 30 now, but like this different design of a life is just indescribably more fulfilling and better than the other lifestyle that I had. And look, that doesn't, like, I'm the last person to say like, oh, everybody should like join a nonprofit, and like, that's not what I'm saying. There's so many different ways to do it. It's just about what are your priorities and what really matters.
I love that, Brett. The comments resonating extremely well with all of our entrepreneurs who are chasing greatness, applying that long-term value, which is a core value of ours, an Next HQ, long-term mentality, thinking about the big picture. Maureen saying it's her dream to pursue this. You got one you want to pull out?
Yeah. So what you just said, chase greatness, right? I could not agree more. More than anything, I believe in excellence. I believe in greatness. You have to ask yourself, as a kind of next generation leader, what does greatness actually mean? Does greatness mean comparing yourself to somebody else at age 30 and thinking that you're better than a certain group? I promise you that's not greatness, right? Does greatness mean a certain bank account number? I promise you that's not greatness, right? And like, to me, what I define greatness as is really like serving others. Right. And like me serving others, using my talents to try the best of my ability to help others in this world while I'm here, whether that's from a nonprofit side, for-profit side, or just in my everyday life, right? Take your entrepreneurial identity out of it, and it's just you as a human being. Then what is greatness? And it comes down to your character, and are you serving others first? And if you don't have that right, then it might take you 5 years, it might take you 10 years, it might take you 20 years, it might take you 40 years to realize that, in my opinion, your priorities are not right for greatness.
Brett, greatness is serving others. I'm putting this on a poster board in front of this community
here
on this wall.
Well, I mean, that's to me, that is leadership, that is greatness, right? Like all throughout history, like that's it. And I think if you start there, then yes, like, do I want News Story to be like this average, mediocre thing? No, I want us to be one of the best organizations to ever exist, right? Like 100%. But the reasons why, how I'm getting there is a little different, right? And it's a little less of for my identity and how I can compare myself to other peers, etc. And like when you're young, because I was in this seat too, like it's so easy to get caught up in that, right? So keep going. But I'm all for greatness.
Yeah,
I'm all for excellence. You just
Brett, you're preaching to like Juliet, Julia, Lindsay in the comments saying this is exactly what maybe the inspiration is that isn't that available from others. These type of lessons of figure out what matters to you. Greatness is serving others. Could you tell us a story maybe from News Story, some of the projects you're doing, some of the trips that you've been on, some of the buildings that you've created that really bring to life the mission of News Story and why you're so just amped up to do with your team, the really challenging work that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, like, you know, I'm definitely an entrepreneur at heart. Like I'm in this, you know, again, two reasons. Like one, there's undoubtedly a mission piece that gets my heart and why I care to help people, right? But that's not the only reason, right? I love building an organization. I love innovating. I love doing things with excellence. Like I'm entrepreneurial, right? And so to me, it kind of starts there. And what gets me so excited and why I think our particular mission matters is like, there are people, what I just said, like me, all around the world that are more creative, more entrepreneurial, more intelligent. They have way more talent. They have so many other things, but what they don't have is anywhere close to the same opportunity that I have. And that is, once I realized this, that like, that's for no other reason other than luck. Literally, right? And so like, what do I do with that, right? Do I just be like, okay, well, I literally hit the jackpot in all of humankind. Like to me right now, being born where I was born, you know, obviously important conversations going on, like my skin color, my privilege, like all of it. In the time that I was born in 1989, like I literally am like one of the luckiest human beings to ever touch this planet, right? And so many other people, that's not the case. And so if you can go in and help people, partner with them, to now have an opportunity to get out of just thinking about how do I survive and try to get past like needing my basic human needs, right? Needing safety at night, needing shelter, making sure that there's a storm, you know, like something's not going to come and like destroy where I'm living with my kid that's sleeping on the floor. These are very real problems that about 1 billion people in our world think about every week. And if you can help them get to the next phase of, well, now I have my basic needs met, I can now start to actualize the potential that I have. I can start to actualize the creativity, the intelligence, the entrepreneurialism. And like, look, that doesn't mean that they are going to go and start all these like, you know, how we think in America about certain businesses, et cetera, right? It could mean that their dream is to like have their kids go through, graduate high school. It could mean certain income levels that they've never gotten to, and a home and a community really is the foundation for them to do that. And so that's what we get really excited about is, yes, there's like the very tangible basics of, if you don't have a house, like your life is about as like it's so bad, right? Like it's so bad. To now I have a place that I can count on, I'm safe, and I can start to actualize my potential. So
love that, Brett. It's resonating so strongly for one main reason. Brett, I'm coming to you from my parents' home, where I'm lucky to be able to go to now that New York City is in a bit of a quarantine shutdown mode. I fled here in March. How many people don't have the apartment to begin with, let alone a place to go because of the quarantine? And that is such an opportunity for me to hopefully work for Justin and myself at NextGen HQ to go bring the benefits of that to the world. But Brett, it's only possible because you have really gone 0 to 1 in a meaningful way. You're 3D printing homes, and we haven't talked about that yet, but you say something that I think is absolutely on par. We as a world, humanity, entrepreneurs, we don't take enough big swings. I heard you say that in an interview recently. And can you talk to us about what the heck this big swing is that you took and New Story is taking every single day now?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been really probably the key differentiator with New Story, and even me as a leader or entrepreneur. Like, I'm by no means the like the smartest, the fanciest resume background. Like, not a lot of that is in my favor. But what I've done differently and what we've done differently is we've chosen to challenge the status quo and like really challenge it. And we've had the courage to come up with bold ideas and act on them. And that can start with a smaller bold idea, but then it builds. And what we've seen is that bold ideas always attract bold people. Always, right? Why do you think people go work for SpaceX? They want to go to the moon, right? That's maybe the most extreme example, but like bold ideas always attract bold talent, bold funding resources, whatever that is, right? And so we come up with bolder ideas, and then over time, it's attracted us these resources that we're then able to put into play and like actually make things happen. And once that starts, then you have momentum. And I always say momentum begets momentum. If you play the cards right, like the momentum begets momentum, and it can just keep going if you play it right. And that's kind of where I feel like we are today. And I feel like every younger leader or someone that wants to do something in their, assuming most of your audience is kind of in their 20s or in college, like, be bold. And being bold is, you have to be smart and bold, right? You can't just be like, you can't be dumb. No, nobody's going to respect that, right? So for example, when we did the 3D printing project, I didn't bet the organization on 3D printing, right? That's not what we did, right? We took a smaller amount of money, R&D capital, and we allocated it to test and to basically have a prototype and MVP, knowing there was a high chance of failure. And if we did fail, we would be okay, because it was like 3 or 5% of our overall budget, which is still like sizable, but it's not like betting the company, right? So when you do these bold ideas, I think you have to be smart when you start. And then once you get a few of them, then the momentum builds, and you can somewhat build your brand around that.
I think momentum begets momentum. As Remy is saying in the comments, now that's momentum. NextGen is all about that. And we continue to agree and resonate here, because if you just get in the game, and keep going, the game will continue to propel itself. Dylan and I were just talking about this morning. It's just get in the game. You got to get in the game. And the formula, it seems like, is boiled down to have the bold idea and then take action. And I think we have a lot of people who have the really bold idea, but then a lot of people who aren't just taking the action. And I want to talk then about building a team, because when you have a bold idea and you want to take action, first you're solo, then you're like, hey, who's around me? And the bold idea might attract people. but how did you think about going to build an initial team, going from that 0 to 1? Dylan and I were doing this solo with our parents, volunteering at all our events, who met your wonderful parents. That's how we, that was our runway for 4 or so years. How did you think about building a team? Once you had the bold idea, you're ready to take the action. What's the tribe? And how did you go about starting to piece it together?
Yeah, it's good. I think that you need a combination of a couple things, right? You definitely need what you guys have done in the early stage, which is like, just figure it out, hustle, get traction, get proof of concept. Like, you have to earn that, right? Like people don't want to hear about, and I don't know exactly, but I can imagine all the stuff you guys did during those years, right? And, nobody wants to hear about all the stuff I did in the first year, but like, it is real, right? And it's like, I'm not trying to go Gary Vee on everybody and promote certain like hustle porn or whatever, but like, especially in the early days, like you do have to put in the exhausting, grueling, like not the shiny and sexy things, right? And some of you will actually like that, and that's a whole nother piece. But so I think you have to get that like early traction somehow, and that's kind of on you to figure out. But it's all figure outable, right? It's like you can all figure out how do you put on that first conference, right? And at that first conference, you're probably not going to have Ray Dalio there. But I think I went on and saw you guys had him. Like I saw your lineup for whatever the new whatever thing you guys are doing, and I'm like, it's so impressive, right? But like it took all those years before to get to that point. And so I guess of building a team. Oh yes, first you have to like earn the right to actually like be trusted with the team and be trusted with like very real resources, right? And resources usually comes with capital. Resources can come with relational resources, right? Which would be kind of maybe some more credible investors or who's involved, right? You have to earn that. And then once you have it, as far as your team, there's always different stakeholders than just who's on your team, right? There's usually some revenue or funding source or partner or investors or donors. And like, you have to really invest in those in the beginning too. And I think that all of that comprises your actual team, right? And then you can hire, whether it's employees or executives or whoever you want to hire, you got to look at the whole ecosystem. And you have to, and as a leader, you have to know how to work all those different parts. And so just, I guess that's to say like, it's not just who you technically hire on your team. You have to think about everybody as stakeholders. And then, so what's your hiring question? How do you think about
I think the answer has been at the beginning when you're in that hustle phase. And thank you so much, Brett, for sharing yours and sharing ours. That very similar. The hustle phase is figure it out, like just get in the game and keep going. Realizing that the team is all of your stakeholders and maybe focusing not just on, hey, what resources do I need and how can I get them, but who am I really serving? Who's really responsible here? And Christian's in the comments right now talking about that first conference. For us, Brett, this is like almost going to bring us to tears because you're super right that it wasn't super sexy back then. And for the team who thinks it's not super sexy now, imagine what it was back then and 5 years from now. And hearing you say that it was very similar for New Story is really powerful to hear that at the beginning. It's just figuring out how do you get in the game and figuring out how do you keep it going.
And in the early days, like, and I remember this from you guys, I could just go back and like, I experienced it in 2017 or 2018 and like
17.
I could fast forward and just like see where you guys were headed, right? I could see how you treated people. I remember how you treated me, how you treated my parents. Like, people don't forget these things. And it's like all of these details of how you act, they really matter in the early days because ultimately people are going to get behind your potential and your character and your leadership. Those are going to be the first people that leave whatever probably good opportunity they have to come join you, right? They're going to have to believe in that. It's going to be the funders that are going to believe in you. It's going to be your first larger corporate partnership. Like, I remember when we first got our larger corporate partnership, like that first one was so hard. And then you get it, and the other ones after it, obviously they're like, oh, well, they thought it was cool. And like, so we don't have to do all that due diligence and take the first, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like all of the details matter of how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that starts in the beginning. Right?
Making relationships first.
People know that, like, look, like, I know you guys didn't have this, like, huge budget to put on a conference. And I know that, like, how the stage was set up, or like I know, like, you're not at the point where you can afford it yet, but like, I know what it would be in like 5 years. And people are like, getting back to the team and the stakeholders, people are going to see you and they're going to understand where you are today. And they're going to try to fast forward and think, what is this going to look like in a couple of years? And ultimately that's what they're betting on. Right.
I love that, Brett. And we so appreciate you and the fact that you took a gamble on us as well back in 2017, flying out from California to New York to join us, giving your time, bringing your family in. And that's what Making Relationships First is all about. And Brett, I want to cascade that into something that I think you are also doing a fantastic, talk about top 1% job in the world. And that's culture, because you just hit on a few core components of what goes into culture. It starts with the initial people at the table. Right? Who's around you? It could be you and an investor and mom and dad, right? Perhaps that might be Justin in my case, different for everybody out there. Talk to us about how you view culture today at News Story, how maybe that has evolved, and how you describe that to anybody who's listening, building early stage culture themselves.
Yeah. So I really mean this with all my heart. Like, I don't just say it. I really believe that our number one asset, our most indefensible asset, is the culture we've built. And I'm seeing the ROI on that more than ever as we all go through this crisis right now. I'm seeing how much the team is in it for the team. The selfishness piece of it. I'm part of a bigger story here, a bigger long-term vision. Like, I can contribute to it. I come up with ideas, and like, we've always seen the return on that, but in times like this, we're seeing it more than ever. And how we design the culture, again, kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is like, as a leader, like, how are you truly defining greatness, right? And for us, me and our leaders at News Story, like, it really is about how are you treating for, and we actually say, how we define leadership in News Story? Loving and caring for one another. That's the sentence. I say every day, you want to know how you can be the best leader at News Story, and everyday actions, you can go out of your way to love and care for one another, to love and care for our partners, to love and care for anybody you're talking to in a genuine, selfless way. And like, to me, that really is leadership. And if you're doing that consistently, you're going to build a culture that is so tight, and is in it for the right reasons, that feels genuinely cared for and loved for, that feels that the team cares more about them personally than professionally, right? They're not just an OKR, they're not just a KPI. They're somebody that really matters. And as a leader of a company, or with any influence or any power, it's your responsibility to direct that in the goodness of other people, right? Not for yourself, but in the goodness of other people. And that's what you're entrusted with as a leader. And so, we have a value at News Story. There's two ones I'll mention. One is we call it a humble pursuit of excellence. And that's this like dichotomy of, on one end, which we talked about this earlier, like, yes, there needs to be a determination and a drive and a tenacity towards excellence, no questions asked. And there needs to be a humble and compassionate posture in how we do things. And most organizations and leaders have one of those, right? They're either very tenacious and driven and aiming for greatness, and they're like, oh, the humility, the compassion, all that stuff, come on. And then on the flip side, you have a lot of leaders that are like, you know, all of the humility and the compassionate side, and they don't have the dogged determination and all of that. The magic happens when you have both of them. That's what Jim Collins calls a level 5 leader. And we've built our culture around level 5 leadership. And everybody on the team can be that. And so if you're listening, I would just encourage you to Google level 5 leadership by Jim Collins. I think it's the ultimate example of how to lead, and anybody can do it. So
we'll pop that into the comments, level 5 leadership. And Rachel was already sharing more about News Stories values and a few stories from there. The values and the culture piece clearly resonating with so many of our audience. And I'm looking at Rich right here in our audience right now, who is a mentor of Jill and mine, who has very been clear from the beginning that it's your personal values as a founder that bleed into the values of the company. And knowing you personally and hearing the values of the company, it's very obvious that your faith, your outlook, your motivation, it's weaved in exactly into the company story. A lot of our college audience is interested in joining cultures like that. I know you have some opportunities for college students who are looking to be part of a mission and be part of a culture. What do you have going on? You know, we can share this with the college students who are currently watching and afterwards as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you know, we've kind of, and, you know, it's definitely been sparked by everything happening with COVID and like realizing that even some things in our world are slowing down a bit, and a lot of college students have had their internships disrupted. And so, you know, it's been 5 years since starting News Story, and I started it at 24. I had no money, no success, no real big time connections. Met my co-founders, and fast forward 5 years, and you know, we've now raised close to $60 million. We've you know, been named one of the most innovative companies in the world by Fast Company 3 years. I'll kind of won't share things that have happened, but like a lot has happened in a short period of time. And I believe that while yes, there was some luck involved, there was some, you know, just really cool things that happened, like ultimately it was about our mindset, and it was about our culture, and it was about how young people that join our organization, how are we getting them, how are they like reaching their potential? And so much of it has to do with how we think, right? And so we have a value at News Story called Team of Founders, because we believe everybody, regardless of your title, you can think like an owner, you can think like a founder. And so much of that is just challenging the status quo, not going with the traditional ways of doing things, being different. And we really believe that can be taught. And so we're like, how do we take what's the number one driver for News Story, turn it inside out, export it into a 1-month accelerator for college students that want to connect with other like-minded college students, to learn what that is, to go through all types of different like startup content we'll be teaching, and essentially have a 1-month accelerator. And we're doing it. It's called Founders Lab. It is not for only people that want to start a company. It could be people that want to graduate and work for an innovative organization to learn the skill sets and the mindset to do that. It could be for even young professionals or people that are internships now that want to bring that mindset into their workplace today. We have some extraordinary guest teachers, Y Combinator partners, Y Combinator alumni, Scott and Dick Harrison from Charity Water, the founder of Preemptive Love, the founder of Kiva. The other people are on our site, but yeah, I'm super passionate about having the next generation of leaders really think differently and really challenge the status quo in their careers. And we think there's a lot to teach there, and we think that we can connect them with resources. And so that's what we're going to do. We're taking applications now. Applications are on a rolling basis, and the cohort will start on July 20th. We'll probably we're going to cap it, so it's going to be smaller. So if anybody's listening and they're interested in applying, I would go to our website and apply. So that's the
Love
start.
that. And we'll get the link out. All the information will be shared in the comments and also through NextGen's distribution channels. Brett, you are a tremendous leader, a tremendous mentor, and happy and blessed to say friend to both Justin and myself. One of the questions we love to ask toward the end of these interviews, take us home, Brett. You mentioned the next generation, how excited you are by the potential that it can come from something like Founders Lab. Which, by the way, Justin, I think we might have to take a vacation day to go, join for a little bit.
1 month.
1 month vacation. Brett, what is something that gets you fired up when you think about the potential of the next generation? Fast forward 5-10 years, and the people who are listening in the comments right now, they're going to be building, they're going to be innovating, right? What is something that you believe is truly special about those coming next?
Yeah, I think the greatest opportunity is in the fact that I believe we are all, and if you're on this call, you definitely are, we're all ambitious for something, right? And I think the ultimate question is what are you ambitious for? And my hope and my passion is that what it's for is a bigger purpose than yourself. And again, it doesn't mean you shouldn't make money. There's a lot of ways to have that answer. But if you're genuinely ambitious for something that is bigger than yourself, bigger than your own, identity tied up in a certain ego, that is when you can really start thinking big. And that's when you can really start to make change happen. That will not only be more beneficial to the world, more beneficial to how the cultures you create that is really based on the principle of servant leadership and serving others. But ultimately, I know this for a fact, it's going to make your life better. It's going to make you more fulfilled. It's going to make you happier. And it's going to give you a better life. We're on this earth for a very short period of time. And you really got to ask the question, ultimately, what matters? And do that hard work of what matters. And we're going to have different answers, but it's kind of all going to come back to something bigger than myself. And so the next generation that is super ambitious, that is super driven, what for? I think that's the opportunity. And I think there's a lot of encouraging signs of that it is going to be, somewhat of a different future for what we are trying to tell people. And, so much of it is and I just love what you guys are doing. So much of it is changing the narrative of what should young, ambitious people desire, right? And there's just been this cultural narrative of you have to there's so many different buckets, right? There's the unicorn startup, there's this position, and we all know them, right? On Wall Street, there's all these things, and it's not to say that you can't do that, that could be a way to do it, but it's changing the narrative of what is success, right? And what is all your ambition for? And we need more people to be examples of it can be different things than you might have imagined growing up.
Brett and New Story have been a guiding light for Dylan and I as examples of great servant leadership, of great impact-related initiatives, of how to use entrepreneurship to change the world. I hope all of our listeners here are thinking about that, what that narrative is in their head, and do they know what they are ambitious for and how they're going to combine bold ideas with action as well. Brett, where can our audience find out more about you? How can they get in touch with you? What social media platforms or whatever it might be best for folks who want to continue maybe the conversation?
Yeah, I'm happy to chat with folks on social. I'm pretty active on Twitter, and so it's just my name. Brett Hagler is the handle. Same on Instagram, it's just my handle, Brett Hagler. And yeah, if you have 6 to 8 hours, 10 hours a week from July 20th to August 20th, I think going through the accelerator with just some extraordinary people involved, is only going to better position you for whatever dream you have. And so I would encourage you to apply. You can go to our website, which you guys will link, that has all the details for that. And yeah, reach out to me if you have questions.
Brett, it has been such a joy having you. Thank you for all you do. Best of luck to you and the team as you head into the Founders Lab this summer. And we appreciate you, and we'll see you hopefully in person very soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Brett. I cannot even begin to talk to our audience about this.
What a guy.
Brett, 2017, Brett came to Next Gen Summit, and those who know the Next Gen story have been following us for a couple of years. 2017 was a really pivotal turning point for us when we started to get even more and more traction. Momentum breeds momentum. And having Brett then, how you described the stage, I'm imagining the stage is kind of peeling off. You remember it was like the sticky glue. The end wouldn't freaking stick with the tape.
My dad up there with 9 hammers.
Tom is Dan Lilienthal. Shout out. He's back there. I think at one point we said, just hold it. And to hear Brett talk about how it takes time. Like it takes time to have a bold idea, take action, stick true to your values, and just stay in the game. And momentum will breed momentum, which will breed momentum.
Such a strong learning opportunity for anybody who is out there thinking there's only one way to make impact. There's only one way to find success. Wrong. Just time out, right? Brett is finding those same values, those same fulfilling experiences by building a nonprofit. He's building a foundation, right? A charity. And these are not things that I think everybody knows are on the table. And so as I see my mom in the comments shouting out, Dad, thank you.
Shout
whatever
out Tom
you want.
For always being there with the mechanical support, stages upon stages of years. It has been 100%. Tom Gambardella manually managing the stage presence.
I love it. And so to take us home, Jay, on a closing thought, I just want to say, whatever you're looking to do in this world, if you want to design your life, Brett said it, you can be a banker, you can be a lawyer, you can be a teacher, whatever that is for you. Go chase the greatness within that, right? Go find your path, find your journey, and push doors, knock them over, open them up, and say, I'm here, right? Next Gen HQ is here. We got your back in the process of doing it.
Mic drop moment on that. Thank you so much, Next Gen fam, for being here. Keep up the momentum. Momentum breeds momentum. You know the scoop. Now that's
movement inspires momentum.
That's what everything. Get the momentum. Stay in the game. Keep it going. 50 years later, it all works out. Hang in there. We're blessed to be on this journey with you. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
DNJ out.